put me straight on a detail there. Let's see. The game lasts 8 turns. By the end of turn 8, Mosby must have notoriety of 9 to win, and the performance points do not count. It's possible to reach 9 before the end of turn 8, but you must continue playing at the end of the 8th turn. Since random events may cause Mosby to lose performance points. Okay, so yeah, I said, no, let's not dwell on that. Right, so I'm on 5, so game turn is 5. So that has to always be equal to that or greater than it. By the time that we get to turn 8, when we end turn 8, that's got to be 1, 2, 3, 4 more up at 9. Okay. Yeah. So that's how you win the game. Let's see. What else do we want to know about? Yeah, the thing that's sort of curious too is that once you get into the rounds, where it's, as I say, you move him around, he goes hither and thither, and then he might depend on the cards that he has, and so forth. He might be able to go into union spaces without activating people. I mean, that's actually the ideal result. So, for example, let's say he was going to go over here. You know, he might say, okay, I'm going to move. You just pick him up and move him as long as it's connected. Oh, okay, get to here. Then let's say he gets to here, and I don't know, for whatever reason, he could probe that, which is, let's have a look on the quiet, or let's say he just goes straight in there. We roll for activation. Let's say they don't activate. Okay, well, now he can go to the next one. Let's roll for activation. They don't activate. Oh, okay, fine. Then we'll press on into the interior. We go here, and let's say, oh, I don't know, they do activate. Well, that's where operational movement is now over, and we're doing rounds. And in the operational movement, which is before that part, he can probe, move, do combat. He can demolish a bridge or a railroad. He can kidnap, and he can disband. One point there is to demolish a bridge, you have to be sitting on top of the bridge, but to demolish a railroad, you don't do it sort of there, as it were. You do it in the node. You do it in the station in this case, for example, and you would put the marker there. It doesn't interfere with movement in any way. Mosby doesn't move along the railways. He moves along the roads, which are black, and the pikes, which are red. As far as I could see, I think the pikes only matter in... Oh, there's a fast horses card, which is only good on pikes, something like that. But beyond that, it's roads and pikes, pretty much the same thing. So that was demolish. Kidnap, I haven't done that yet. I think that's the only thing I haven't done, because you can only do kidnap when there is I think there's a general and a colonel that show up over here with the draw of random event cards. Of course, you might not see them at all. They might not show up during the course of your game. It depends if the cards show up. But if they are there, then that means, of course, you can kidnap them. You can't have a go at kidnapping them if they're not there. So if the word gets out, those boys are up there at Fairfax or something like that, then you could try to get up there, try to sneak up there as much as possible. Get up there and kidnap the beggars and reap the points for so doing. Yes, of course, as you can imagine, if you demolish a railroad, which is like here, or if you demolish a bridge, which is there, I think the railroad is 3 points and that one is 5 points. So you would gain the points there, and if it got up to there, then you'd lap around here and move that up. So you do that, but of course, when you do that, it also will increase the Union awareness I think they both increase it by 1 point, and that makes it more likely that the Union will react to what you're doing. And in the rounds, the active Union units, which are the ones that are face up, they will come after you. You roll a die to see what they will do. If you roll a 1, they go back to sleep. They've had enough. They've given up. Those boys are tired and footsore. But if you roll higher, they will go 3 spaces after you. Just so you're moving 3 spaces in rounds, and so are they. And if They roll, I think if they roll a 6, they will even move 4 spaces after you, which means those boys are going to catch you. And you in combat, especially early in the game. I mean, you might be in combat. The strength might be sort of their strength against you is like 4-1 or something like that. So you can risk being killed for sure. Right, let's see what else have we got. And yeah, you just keep doing that until you keep doing the rounds until the Union slowly become entirely inactive, or you decide to get away to disband. Let's see. You do all that, and then when the turn finally ends, probably because you disbanded, you flip all the Union units to the inactive side. You discard your action cards, except your hold cards. You remove Mosby from the board. You remove the Raider's strength because that'll be recalculated again next turn. You check Mosby's status for next turn. If he's wounded, but he wasn't wounded this turn, then you can remove the wound. And then you advance the game turn to the next spot. So, yeah. So the technique I use, which is a technique that I'm starting to use quite a lot these days, it's what they've always said, which is if you're having a hard time with the rules, then people say, start pushing around some counters. I go beyond that. I if at all possible, I just start playing the game. And if I think I've got enough information to start playing the game, I just start playing the game. Like for example, right now, the kidnapping, the two counters that can be kidnapped, the colonel and the general, have not shown up yet. Okay, fine. I haven't read the kidnapping rules. It's not like, well, I glanced at them and I just haven't got that far yet. There aren't many of the rules. The rules are 13 pages. There aren't many rules that I have not even read yet, but kidnapping is one of them. So I'll get to that when I can. This is my first game. Okay. The one thing I will say, let's do a bit of a summary so far of what I think of the games and the game and the rules so far. So yes, a general summary of what I think of the game so far. Here we are. I'm on turn 5 of 8. So about halfway through my first game ever, and I'm definitely enjoying it. I feel that the bot, as it were, the AI, the built-in intelligence in the game, it feels good to me. It feels that it's doing sensible things. Doesn't feel like a robot that's out of control. It's pretty straightforward for it to be programmed into the structure of the game that the Union forces when you kick the hornet's nest, as it were. So let's imagine, or as I did here, I managed to sneak past that unit on the previous turn and went to there and blew up the bridge. And as we can imagine, what that meant was, it seems to make perfect sense, that all around, boop, 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 all these units became activated. Don't know what they are until they get activated. So they could be if nothing. They could be or nothing of very much consequence, like a picket or a sutler's wagon, or nothing at all. Excuse me, or they could be combat units. There might be a 1 strength combat unit, could be a 6 strength combat unit. I actually don't know what the biggest strength combat unit is yet. But if it was a 6 strength, you've got a real problem with that one. Anyway, and then in their turn, if you have the initiative, then you can try and do something first and get away, as he did. He disbanded when he was there, and off they went. Got wounded in the process. But if you don't have the initiative, then the very first thing that those units are going to do is as long as they roll reasonable dice roll, not something like a 1 or whatever, they're going to go straight towards you. They're going to move towards Mosby, and they're going to try to occupy the same space as you. So you're going to get clobbered. Or attacked several times at least. So it makes sense. It's not just the enemy has decided to move to the west, even though you're to the east of them or something like that. So yes, I think that the AI opponent is very credible. It feels like you're playing another player. And I've played a few of these games now, these solitaire-by-design games, and believe me, there is some where it doesn't feel so much like that, or there is some where it feels like fairly and squarely you're playing a robot that is just sort of doing the same thing all the time on a very simplistic level. And this has got a lot more in it than that. So that's on the good side. The other good side is minimal setup time, which is pretty important because, of course, some war games with lots of different pieces and cards and all this sort of thing can have rather a long setup time, especially if you have to sort of build decks in particular ways and that sort of thing. And if you have a game like Normandy 44, which is a fantastic game, but you've got a lot of counters that you have to set out on the board. You've got to put them on separate side sheets as well, line them all up on that. This game, very quick to set up. And once I get the hang of it, it looks like I could probably play the game. The estimates that I see generally around, it just makes my head spin how people say, oh, you can play this game in an hour or that game in an hour and a half, and then it takes me 4 hours to play it. Maybe I just like to spend a lot of time thinking about my moves. I probably do. Anyway, so yes, it's a relatively short game. Okay, that's got that going for it as well. The one big downside that I would say is in the format of the rules. Excuse me. I have got these two excellent player reference sheets. They're a total of four. They're two-sided, so they're a total of 4 sheets. There are PDF files that can be downloaded from Board Game Geek. I do apologize. I don't remember the name of the person who created them, but my hat is off. They're absolutely marvelous. They're very attractive the way that they've been produced. It's not simply that they've been put together this way, but they're also very attractive. And then, of course, because they are my own, with all my games, I try to treat all my games with great respect, because why not? And also, secondly, the motivation that I might sell them one day, and people don't tend to like to buy rule books that have been scribbled all over. So I tend to scribble all over these sheets. I make notes, and I might make references to here, for example, there we go. Why not put the rule number in there as well for my own reference, the page number and so forth. Great. Makes it really handy dandy when you've got your own versions like that. And also I tend to print off, get a PDF copy of the rules whenever possible. And as long as it's not too long, I print off on this one. I just printed off the first 13 pages. That was all I needed, so that I can write all over this stuff and make all kinds of notes. And believe me, I do. Okay. So that's good. But no, the rules themselves, I mean, if we just take a look at this, for example, you can see there's a lot of dense text there. There are very long paragraphs. It's not broken up into short rules that are sort of, 1 or 2 sentences long. It's not the, what I always preferred was the format used in something like Squad Leader, where, if I remember correctly, if, for example, we have rule 6.5, and then down here we've got some other notations. But if this was the Squad Leader rules, you'd have 6.5, then 6.5.1, 6.5.2, 6.5.3.1, 6.5.3.2. And the thing about that is it means that you can clearly see, here's this bit of the rule, and then it stops, and then here's the next rule, and then that stops, and then here's the next bit. The way these rules are written, you just got to keep reading. And it's just sort of like, this will happen if that hasn't happened, but if that happens, or if that, but not that happens. And then if that happens, you have to do that as well. And so they just sort of go on and on. It's an excellent game, but I don't like the formatting of the rules. It reminds me, one of the worst cases of that is an absolutely fabulous game, which I've referred to several times, the miniatures game De Bellis Antiquitatis, DBA. Marvelous game you can play. It's definitely my favorite miniatures war game. Simple, short. You can play a game in an hour and a half, possibly 2 hours if you're me. But the rule book is absolutely awful in terms of trying to make head or tail of it. And the author, Phil Barker, is, I think he's a genius. He's a fantastic pillar of making war games what they are today. But those rules are the complete opposite of what I just described as having, discrete sentences broken out rule point by rule point. Those are a definite example of rules that just sort of, it's just text after text after word after word after prose, of go on and on and on and on and on, and it makes a great game if you can get it into your head. Anyway, these rules are a bit like that. So I would like the rules to be formatted. I would prefer it if the rules were formatted differently. But of course, this was a game that was published whenever it was, approximately 1985, I think it was. I looked that up once and for all. 1985, Victory Games, right. Yes, some person might take it upon themselves to reformat the rules in the service of the wargame community, but it's not the most popular game in the world, so I'm not sure that that's going to happen anytime soon. But that sort of thing does happen. Could happen one day, who knows? And here's a bit of an update on the game as it's flowing. We're now at turn 6. We're actually in the middle of turn 6, more or less. And we've had some movement. We've had some rounds. I don't think we've had any combat. No. But what we have had, the landscape looks very different to the way it did on the previous turn, because there was a union. There was a, an event card. A random event card. There was the restoration of the Union lines, and that meant that all the placement or the reveal markers, that's those and those, were removed, apart from those 4 there that extended the Union lines. They were all removed, and all the Union units were also removed. So basically, everything returned to a state where Mosby knows nothing, basically, about the Union forces, about where they are and what strength they are and so forth. So that happened. Also, what happened, there was a lot of cleanup. Another card repaired all the bridges, and another card repaired all the railroads. So when the bridges and railroads are repaired, of course, it means jolly good show, because it means that you can go and blow them up again. Splendid. Anyway, so as we can see, there's we did a bit of demolition here on the railroad. There, it's like, I've been blowing up the railroad all the live long day. That sort of a thing. So there's one there, and there's one there that's just been done by Mosby and his boys, and they're just whooping out a hollering. And but they were very lucky up here, because they got gutsy to go up there once again to blow up Manassas Junction. And of course, that's surrounded, we knew we were taking a big risk. And one of the reasons that we were doing that is because on the action cards, which of course you either use them or lose them, on the action cards over here, we've got Mosby escapes, which negates the effects of wounds, that sort of thing. And then we've got 2 hide cards, which means that he can hide. He cannot be attacked. You just carry on in the rounds doing Union movement until somebody enters his space, and then at that point everybody randomly moves 1 space and deactivates. So he basically gets away, although there's a lot of Union marching and counter-marching going on, so you kind of don't know where they're going to end up, but you do at least get away. So presumably I figured that means he can be a bit gutsy and do things that normally would be a bit of a risk to his life. He is recovered now, of course. In the previous turn he was wounded. He had a wound which he had suffered in the because of an attack he had suffered in the previous turn. So it's turn 6 now. He's all better. He was shot or whatever in turn 4, and in turn 5 he was wounded and recovered. So he's in better shape now. But unfortunately, on the negative side, he's only got a band of strength point 2. So most of his boys were unable to show up this time for this particular uh, adventure. Anyway, so been racking up some points. You get 3 points, of course. 1, 2, 3. That's 9. And I think they bagged a courier that was there, which was worth 1 point. So that's 10. So they've got 10 performance points in this particular turn. So they're up to notoriety is 6. Think of it as sort of 6.7, as it were. So it's getting up there. But the problem is so we're safe if we terminated the turn now. We'd be safe because we've got at least what the game turn is, which is game turn 6. But we've only got 2 more game turns after this one in which we have to get the notoriety up to 9. Now, of course, it should be borne in mind that to do that, we're already at, as I said, 6.7. So if we can get 1, 2, 3 more points, we'd be on a 7. And then we'd have to get another 10, 11, I suppose, to get to 9. So was it 1, 2, 3, and then another 11? So we'd have to get a total of another 14 points to be able to get to a notoriety score of 9. Yeah, so that's got to be done in this turn and in turn 7 and 8. And I don't know, well, how much of a workload is that? Is that feasible? Is that difficult? I don't know. But the thing I do know, of course, is that I've got these cards, so I've got to, I don't know what the probabilities look like. And the problem is, of course, now because he's blown up 3 blooming railroads, the Union awareness is up to 5. So that means that anytime an activity check is done, the only way you can beat it is to roll a 6. So, they're pretty much going to activate. And what happened here, it was an interesting story, because what happened here was they checked for activation around here. Nothing much happened except in that one and that one. And in those two, they both got Union Strength 6 forces showed up, which would have been bad news for old Mosby. They showed up, and then they also gained the initiative. And so we went into rounds, we rolled for initiative. They had the initiative, so during all the rounds, they would have the initiative. And so, right, what's the first thing they're going to do? So you roll for Union movement to see if they're going to move in on Mosby, and if they do, there's going to be combat. Both of them, extraordinary. That one rolled a 1, that one rolled a 1. So both of them basically decided, I don't know, perhaps it was just a rustling in the trees. Let's get back and finish our lunch. And that's what they did. So the bugler sounded the stand down or something like that. And yes, they're all tucking into a decent sort of lunch. And in the meantime, Mosby has got away with it. So, okay, but now the question is, the other thing, of course, the other thing that happened on the event cards, as you've probably noticed, is that, let's see, General Staunton has arrived at Fairfax Courthouse, and Colonel Delaney has arrived at Alexandria. Charming. I've actually been to Alexandria. It was a charming place. And I must say, and let's see. So, yes, so they're out there, could have a go at bagging them. They're worth 10 points each. And I do have a card to help me get Delaney, which is to say that French Delaney, it says, Mosby can enter Alexandria space undetected if no active Union units are in the space, and that is the case at the moment. No activation check is made for the large Union force. So if I could get up there, I could just waltz in there and have a go at kidnapping the beggar. But as we can see, in order to get there, there's a strength 6 in there that I actually did manage to remember that one. Of course, one doesn't have to go that way, but so I could go this way instead. So I could go, no problem going through there, but then I'd have to check for activation in 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces before I got to Alexandria. So it's a very risky proposition, given that Union awareness is already at 5. Obviously, there's a 1 in 6 chance on each one, so there's a very good chance that 3 of them would turn up something. So it might be a better idea to back off and say, let's start a fresh turn and have Union awareness go down. Of course, where would it go down to? Notoriety is 6. So that's worth bearing in mind. Yes, it would only go down to 3. Yeah, the Union awareness would only slide down to 3 because notoriety is at 6. So that's less of a factor. In other words, you might think, oh, big improvement. But that's the way it is in the early stages when his notoriety is low. Now it's high, it's only going to go down 2 clicks. So it's a question of weighing up, do I want to do that? Or does it make more sense to use these cards while I have them? So it's because it's use them or lose them. Got to have a think. And as you may recall, I said earlier that I was, because this is my first time playing the game, I hadn't actually read every word of the rules before I started. I'd read most of them. And I hadn't read anything about the kidnapping procedure. So sharp-eyed players will probably have noticed that I had made a mistake, but it was easily undone. What I had done was I had the general... and General Staunton, I believe it is, and we got Colonel Delaney. I'd had the general at Fairfax courthouse up there, and well, actually, that's not how it works. That's where he goes, but I put him there when the event card came up, and then in the same hand of event cards, Colonel Delaney showed up there. Well, what you do is they're only there for a limited time. Whoever shows up, you put them on the board, and then as soon as the other officer shows up, you remove the first one. They're gone, and the kidnapping opportunity is over forever. So yes, the opportunity. The general, the good general was merely passing through Fairfax and declined to spend the night. So he's gone. He's long gone. And so instead now we never had an opportunity to kidnap him because in the same hand, Colonel Delaney showed up. So the only game in town is indeed Colonel Delaney. He's up there at Alexandria, which is a lot further away, although we do have the special card, which could help us. So I'm still puzzling because I figured out I was going to have a go. I even relocated Mosby. There he is. I was going to have a go at Fairfax by going this way because I'd only have to go to 1, 2, 3 spaces to get to him, although he is in a large Union force. But now, if I'm going to attempt kidnapping, it's a heck of a lot further away, so I've got to have a think.